Biggest upgrades to expect from the Mercedes car for 2024 revealed. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is Mercedes W15 feels like a car for the first time in 2 years, as Wolff expresses the new upgrades of the Mercedes W15. Toto Wolff has cautiously expressed hope that Mercedes look to have made progress with their car ahead of the 2024 F1 season amid positive feedback from simulator driver Anthony Davidson. Following a long period of dominance in the sport, the Silver Arrows have struggled in relation to some of their rivals since the introduction of new ground effect regulations in 2022, having claimed just 1 win in that campaign before going without a victory in 2023. However, with the team opting to change the concept of their car for the upcoming season, Wolff has previously suggested that the squad have a chance to move closer to challenging Red Bull. This seems to have been backed up by comments from former F1 driver and now TV pundit Davidson, who carries out simulator work for Mercedes. Speaking to The Telegraph, Wolff said of a recent conversation with Davidson, he was driving Melbourne, and he said, "The car feels like a car for the first time in 2 years. Obviously, I would love this to correlate to the track, but we've seen in the last 2 years that this was not always the case." While Wolff is reluctant to make any bold predictions, the team boss has stressed the importance of maintaining a positive outlook regarding whether Mercedes can return to their championship-winning ways. "Always believe it's possible," Wolff said. "You cannot start the season with an attitude of, 'This is not going to be possible.' We saw last year with McLaren what a huge step they made with a single upgrade. We've signed a 2-year deal with Lewis Hamilton, and we owe it to him, to George, and to all the team to give it our full attention in 2024 and 2025. I think it's possible." Wolff recently signed a new deal which will see him remain as team principal and chief executive at Mercedes until the end of 2026. Despite challenging times for the outfit over the past 2 years, the Austrian says that he feels good. "I'm part of this team in various functions," Wolff commented. "I'm a co-shareholder. I'm on the board. These are things which will not change whatever executive or non-executive role I have. But I feel good. The risk for me is always more bore out than burnout. And that's why I embrace the challenges we have today, even though they sometimes feel very, very difficult to manage." Mercedes will launch their 2024 car on February 14th at Silverstone, with the first race weekend of the season set to get underway in Bahrain on February 29th. But it's much harder staying true to the path when pain repeats itself weekend after weekend, and the fightback at times struggles to gain momentum. As the German manufacturer nears the launch of its all-new 2024 car, after 2 years where it has faced its fair share of disappointment, you could expect it to think that it has had quite enough of doing the learning bit right now. But while other teams in the same scenario have often found themselves unable to avert a change of direction and rapidly detour off into a negative spiral, things could not have been more different at the Brackley and Brixworth factories. In fact, rather than a blame culture emerging where factions turn on each other, the challenges of the past 2 years have delivered, if anything, a stronger Mercedes workforce that has been unified rather than splintered by all that has gone on. As Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff explained to Autosport at the end of last year, back-to-back difficult campaigns have not been a case of requiring a rescue operation from on high to try to keep the troops in order. Instead, there is a clear sense that there was a desire from the whole team to pull together and sort things out. "You need to ask the team how hard it was to manage me," said Wolff, when asked about how difficult it was to deal with things. "And not only the other way around, we're all in this together. We knew that the day would come where it's going to get more tricky, but it wasn't as we expected, because the kind of scenario we had in mind was, it's tough to win a championship, we're winning races, but we know where we are lacking performance." And suddenly, all of that wasn't the case. Then you have false dawns and managing your expectations. It's very tricky to keep the positiveness in our daily interpersonal dynamic. It was not always straightforward, but I think this is where the strength of the team is. We know each other so well that we can kind of live with each other's strengths and weaknesses. Each of us, in a way, carried the baton at a certain stage. When it was difficult in the debriefing room because the results were not as expected, It was then George that should have all reasons to be upset, but he was about positiveness. The second story is Lewis Hamilton addresses the rumors of retiring. Lewis Hamilton held the World Championship with one hand at the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but it was not to be for the Mercedes driver. Instead of an 8th world title for Hamilton, it became the first ever for Max Verstappen. Many think that 8th title is the end goal for the Briton, but according to him, that is not necessarily the case. According to the Mercedes driver, should Hamilton still manage to secure that record-breaking 8th world title in the coming years, it does not immediately mean he will hang up his helmet. "I never said that an 8th title would be the end point," the 39-year-old Briton said in conversation with Formula One magazine. What he will do after his career as an F1 driver, he does not yet know. "I don't necessarily feel in myself the desire to stay active in Formula One any longer after that. But as I said before, never say never," adds the 7-time world champion. Hamilton says he cannot imagine standing in a pit box somewhere without driving himself. In that case, he thinks the desire would return to racing for another year anyway. "So probably it would be better to take a sabbatical and then see if I would still want to come back," he concludes. The latter does not sound unfamiliar. Previously, Fernando Alonso left motorsport's premier class, only to return 2 years later for a permanent F1 seat at Alpine. The now 42-year-old Spaniard swapped Alpine for the Aston Martin team in 2023, where he had a very successful season. Mercedes technical director James Allison has admitted that it's down to him and the rest of the team's technical staff to provide Lewis Hamilton with a winning car if he's to claim a record 8th world title. The started getting outpaced by Red Bull during the 2021 season, and the subsequent 2 years have seen Hamilton fail to win a single race, never mind title. Mercedes' last 2 cars have only yielded 1 race win between them when George Russell claimed victory at the Brazilian GP in 2022, and team principal Toto Wolff has already stated that their 2024 car will feature dramatic changes. Allison returned to Mercedes as technical director in April 2023, replacing Mike Elliott, who had originally replaced him. The Brit has recently signed a new contract and has been in charge of ensuring that Mercedes W15 makes a step closer to the dominant Red Bull team in 2024. Now, Allison has said that the pressure is on the Brackley-based outfit to provide Hamilton with a car capable of winning once again, after the 7-time champion signed a new contract keeping him with the team until at least the end of 2025. "I think you'd struggle to find a driver anywhere in the grid that wasn't motivated," Allison told Autosport. "I think that sort of comes with the territory with them. And generally speaking, the more successful the drivers have been, the more sort of inescapable that compulsive need to win is. In Lewis's case, it's just a core part of who he is, so there's no doubt about his motivation to get back to winning ways. But whether or not he can do that will be much more in the hands of the equipment we've given him than in his own hands. He's always had that ability there." Williams team principal James Vowles was an integral part of Mercedes back in their domination days between 2014 to 2021. However, Vowles was a part of Mercedes even when Brackley's difficult initial years after acquiring Brawn GP. Michael Schumacher was the star driver of the Silver Arrows till his second F1 retirement in 2013. Hence, the principal recalled his biggest regret during that time. Vowles recalled this time when Schumacher and Nico Rosberg made up the driver lineup at Mercedes. The former world champion taught Rosberg some crucial lessons during this period. Moreover, the Williams team boss highlighted that Schumacher extracted every millisecond out of himself and the team back then, despite being in his 40s. There is very few characteristics that make a world champion. Michael, he taught Nico how to work really hard. Michael wasn't the most skillful in the car, that was Lewis, but he knew how to extract every millisecond out of himself and every millisecond out of the team. The third story is Mercedes W15 chief issue's surprising verdict on Red Bull's F1 dominance. James Allison has claimed it is lots of fun trying to hunt down the dominant Red Bull team as work continues on the new Mercedes W15 car for the F1 2024 season. Mercedes won a record 8 constructors titles from the start of F1's V6 hybrid era in 2014, but have been restricted to just a single race victory since the ground effect regulations were introduced in 2022. Red Bull produced the most dominant season in history last year, winning all but one of the 22 races as Max Verstappen eased to a third successive world championship. Despite Red Bull's current position at the sports summit, Mercedes remain hopeful of returning to title contention in 2024 with the W15, which is expected to be a significant departure from the team's last two designs. Allison has dismissed the notion that Mercedes are frustrated by their current predicament, claiming there is joy to be had in the process of returning the team to winning ways. And he has paid tribute to Red Bull for sticking together during the tricky times, with many of Verstappen's colleagues, including team principal Christian Horner, F1's longest-serving team principal involved in Red Bull's previous dominant spell with Sebastian Vettel between 2010 and 2013. As quoted by motorsport.com, he said, "Actually, it's lots of fun. It isn't as much fun as winning, that's definitely true, but you have to love the whole of the sport."